over through the next sprint climb of the day, and now they're just about getting to the nice light blue. And will start in earnest. There are 15 switchbacks on the climb.
We got 3 Americans sitting there all in a row. We got Ben King, Joe Dombrowski, these guys, and Ian Boswell from Sky ahead of all those guys. So 3 guys, 3 Americans, all looking forward to Mount Baldy and see what kind of legs they have when it gets steep.
Sitting in 6th position there, you can see Peter Sagan enjoying his day in the leader's yellow jersey.
He's putting himself in the right place to go with the first move that comes once we get to the start of the serious part of the climb. 4.3 miles from the summit is when the Strava clocks will start to see if they can match Joe Dombrowski's record of 22 minutes 50.
And this is it,
There's
guys.
the switch.
Yeah, you take that left-hand turn and it starts going up. This is the point of no return.
So basically, we're talking 22 minutes and 55 seconds to the finish if we're looking for a record today.
Yeah, no, it hasn't quite got to that point yet, but we're not far away. About another 1.5 miles to where the clock starts. Well, Phil Dignan keeping control at the front, keeping the pace on, and he's got plenty of helpers still with him. Just behind him is Boswell and Kenyuk still to lead before Ainau puts his move in.
Dombrowski's moving forward as well there in the black and green jersey of Cannondale Garmin. He will show no fear at all of this climb, but Peter Sagan still sitting on his shoulder there quite comfortably. He's keeping a fairly low gear down, and he will, I think, be inspired by his performance yesterday. I had a lot of confidence that he was going to come out and grab the overall lead, but he was so confident afterwards, talking about his victories in the prologue of the Tour of Switzerland, his prologue victory in the Tour of Alberta. There's not a lot of riders left in that group now, and we've yet to reach the really grim part of this climb, and there are 15 switchbacks in the climb up here to Mount Baldy, by the way. Very reminiscent of the 21 corners of Alpe d'Huez.
98 riders have been shed today. That's a group of 35 riders going on to the climb of Mount Baldy at the moment, and it's been all sky for the last hour of racing. And how much longer can Phil Dignan keep up this pacemaking?
Well, that's a question, a very good question. But, you know, these guys, their practices in training, when they go to Mallorca, when they go to the Canary Islands, they try this tempo and this tactic very, very often. But they're doing an incredible job. They're shedding off riders one by one.
Yeah, there's a couple of guys that were in the top 10. You just saw Dion there from the Hincapie Racing Team. You got a couple of guys that are going very good, all getting shelled.
Matthew Boucher was slipping back rapidly there as well. I think I saw number 51 dropping off the back. Now, that's a surprise, because last time up here, he was a good climber. And it's all because of the pressure of Team Sky. Mickey Sharp wears number 21. You can see the Swiss flag around his sleeves there, former Swiss national champion. There are not many riders left. We're starting to get into the tree line, and it's still 3 riders from Team Sky setting an infernal tempo on the front end of this line. A little bit further back in that white jersey, that's Danilo Wies, the most courageous rider. Just a little bit further back there, you've got the champion of South Africa. That's Jacques Jans van Rensburg. You can see with the South African flag on his shoulders. A little bit further back, number 47. He rides for Tinkoff Saxo, and that's Jay McCarthy. Well, McCarthy, I expected to be a little bit closer to the front there. He's got great form, and I figured that he would be the leader of Team Tinkoff Saxo. But, you know, they've hit this very, very hard this stage. You know, we're looking at about 10 kilometers to go to the finish, and Peter Sagan is still holding tough.
As we've seen, big names we expected to go forward on this climb, go backwards, Paul. We're still looking at this man people occasionally call a sprinter.
Well, they call him the King of California here because he has ridden exceptionally well, and he's moved a little bit further forward. We're now starting to see, it looks very much as if Phil Dignan, job done for the day. He's slipped away, and now it's over to Ian Boswell. He's too far down in the overall standings to nurture his own thoughts, but he needs him thinking about that. But Peter Sagan, as we've said, the King of California, they call him, because of his decision to win so many stages here. And the fact is that he will feel very confident now. And when you've got the yellow jersey, you've said it, Phil, so many times, the yellow jersey changes a man. If he'd started this race thinking about the points competition, he probably would have sat up by now. But I really believe still at this point he wants to win this race, and he's got a big buffer over everybody else. It's them to take the lead away from him.
Yeah, let's just think about last time in 2012 when we were going up this. He was probably about 15-20 minutes behind this point in the race. And here now he's going for the win. So yeah, he's got some form. He has some great confidence going to this. You saw Phil Dinan already pull off, so they have 2 more riders from Sky. But I will say that was the first time that I saw Sergio Henao this whole race. So he's finally come up to the front. He knows that, you know, the draft is not going to be that big of a deal from here on out.
13 stage victories for Peter Sagan. There's 4.5 miles to go.
2 kilometers from when the climb itself really kicks in. 1 now as it goes to 4.3. The climb is measured 4.3 miles to the summit, and the group is now feeling this bite. The finish is right above the left-hand shoulder of these riders as they now twist and turn their way to the summit.
As Boswell in the white jersey a little bit, there's a lot of damage being done at the back, but you know, there are not many guys left in this group.
That's the first time I saw Julian Alaphilippe right there sitting on the wheel of Peter Sagan. He has the white jersey with the quick step shorts. He's another question mark here. I think this might be the longest stage race he's ever done, so he doesn't even know what he's going to do.
22 years of age, the rider there in the white jersey. There he is, number 12. I tell you what, he really is a class actor. He almost created a massive surprise in the Liège-Bastogne-Liège, Le Doyen, the old one, the old racer Liège-Bastogne-Liège, first organised in 1896. He finished second, but with a couple more years of experience under his belt, he could have been the winner.
Well, Henao decided he might be a good wheel to follow. He's sitting right behind Alaphilippe and Sagan at the moment. 3.7 miles to go. All of a sudden, 35 riders have completely gone. We're in a group of about 12, 13 men.
Yeah, I don't even know if they had 10 guys right here. And this is a horrible section of the climb.
12.
It's 12 guys going straight up this climb. There's no real relief. There's no turns. It's just a straight climb up the climb. There's Lawrence Tendam and Robert Hessink on the screen right now.
He's under pressure. Just look at the top of his body there. He looks to me as if he's gasping for air a little bit. In fact, he's on the wheel of his I'm just looking round. I'm trying to look round the corner there to see if Lawrence Tendam is still there or if he's actually starting to pop.
He's getting dropped.
He's just in front, but we've got Zeudler alongside him here. The champion of Austria is also there. There is Lawrence Tendam, and he's just about hanging on to Tendam.
Kenyuk's going as well.
Yep,
He's popped going on the white jersey on the left-hand side. You just get an idea now.
Yeah, that acceleration has got Hessing. He's making one desperate. He's digging deep, but I think he is in trouble here.
Well, funny, Lawrence Tendam in the yellow jersey there, the teammate, he's worked all day for his team leader, and he's riding in front of him now.
It's often the way it goes. I know Lawrence has gone. In fact, he's gone looking for Robert. He's looking for Robert to see if he can help him back into the group.
Well, Ian Boswell from the United States, riding for the British Sky team now, is turning up the cranks. But guess what, gentlemen? Mr. Sagan is still there. Look,
he's hurting,
Mr. Sagan.
He's definitely hurting. There's a half a bike length. He's opened up a little bit, but who would have ever thought that Hessink was going to get dropped before Pete today? But yeah, he's suffering right now. This is not a good sign.
Sergio Henao, he just saw that little problem and he's moving up now. Sergio Henao has decided, right, boys, enough is enough. 5.5 kilometers to go.
Following this wheel.
Because he was in a perfect position to see everybody who was struggling. The only man to react is Julian Alaphilippe.
That's Joe Dombrowski in third position in the black and green jersey. Henao, he knows, though, he's got to get
back.
Oh, Peter Sagan, he mustn't panic at this point. You know, when you're a climber, a rider like Sagan, you've got to ride sensibly. Alaphilippe,
he's gone. He's going to test Henao now, and I'm not too sure he's got it. He's going to come back on this occasion.
Well, this is the one guy, Phil, I had no idea, no reference. Oh, Sergio Henao, you know, the climber from Colombia is going to hit. This is going to be a great battle between these two. We now know who the two dominant characters are going to be. It's going to go either way. But, you know, Henao has to finish well ahead of Alaphilippe. Alaphilippe is 10 seconds ahead of him in the overall standings, and they're changing turn for turn at 5 kilometers to go.
If you're Alaphilippe, you don't do anything. Don't do a turn of speed. But here's Peter. He's coming off the back a little bit. The two Americans right over him, Ian Boswell and Joe Dombrowski.
Boswell, what a ride by him. You know, he did all of that pacemaking, and he's still hanging on there in 4th and 5th position on the road. But I'm sure that Sergio Henao now realizes he's got to do something. This average gradient is 9% on this climb. There's some kickers at 17% to finish off at almost 6,500 feet.
Yeah, you know, these guys have very similar characteristics. It's almost like the same guy here. They're almost the same height, same weight. You know, they have that twitchy personality where they're actually quicker than they are strong sometimes.
But they need time. Christian, they need a lot of time to get rid of this man from the overall lead. Julien Alaphilippe needs to finish 45 seconds ahead of him, and Hanayo on the right. And oh, look at that acceleration again from the Colombian, out of the saddle, digging deep. He's putting pressure on the 22-year-old. I think this Julien Alaphilippe is going to be a star of the future.
This is what climbers can do that ordinary riders can't. They can accelerate to new levels, and then they can kick again. But at the moment, the 22-year-old Julien Alaphilippe has the answers here, and this will be concern for Sergio.
Well, it will be, because when you make an acceleration a number of times like that, and the other guy comes back, you start to ask yourself questions. Am I as strong as I thought I was? How come I can't get rid of this guy? But Alaphilippe each time has responded to the acceleration. But they've got to work together, I think, for a couple of kilometers before they start figuring out who's going to win the stage, because they need time. And they need 45 seconds over the overall leader.
This is something that only climbers could do. They could do that change of tempo so many times, and it hurts so bad. But this is the advantage back to Joe Dombrowski. Joe Dombrowski's a little bit back with, we have Ian Boswell, his teammate, clawing his way back. There's Joe right there. He's suffering. He obviously doesn't have the legs for that turn of speed that those two climbers at the front do.
No, but he was fourth on this climb.
Julian's actually turning the screws back on Sergio.
This was coming when Sergio looked at him and saw he was there, and Julian was quite clearly fishing. Now, this is a rider who's only been a pro for 2 years, and a rider who the French are saying one day can win the Tour de France. And as I think I said yesterday, it would be about time. They haven't won the Tour de France since '85. They should be cheering for this.
This is fantastic.
It's unreal.
Unbelievable, Christian.
It's unreal. Well, we had question marks yesterday about the time trial, and he answered that, and we had question marks about this climb today, and I think he's answering that with aplomb.
Well, I'm just going back to what Mark Cavendish said to us just a couple of days ago. He said, Julian, even the team did not really know how he was going to perform on a race like today. Mark Cavendish says, I don't really know how he's going to ride, but he will ride his heart out, and he's certainly doing that now. And I'm sure once we get to the top, he will be chewing his stem, which is right in the middle of the handlebars.
And this is where Ian has to earn his pay. This is where Ian needs to claw his way back as fast as he can to Sergio to try to drag him back up to Julien Alaphilippe.
Yeah, he saw him and he kicked straight away when he saw him there. But, this is a heck of a ride by Boswell to go back up to him.
He's doing a great job. He needs to get back up there as fast as he can and do a big turn on the front for Sergio.
Well, the battle now, the Colombian versus the Frenchman, that seems to be the wrong way round to me, but here we go, the Frenchman's leading.
Just look at his pedaling style there. He's laboured, while as you look at the pedaling style of Alaphilippe, it's just so much easier. He's got a smaller gear in, and he's taking the wider way around the corners. 4 kilometres to go.
And Peter Sagan, well, he made his effort. He was in the perfect place, but even
hey, I tell you what,
aren't going to go against
guys,
those climbers.
He's not so far back. They need to keep on going. I mean, Julien Alaphilippe needs to keep the hammer down all the way to the finish line, because Peter's not losing that much time right now.
4 kilometres from the finish for Peter. This guy's up the road just a little ways, but if they've made the move and they sell out, they become looking like normal human beings again.
They do. This man we're looking at briefly there, Alaphilippe, needs 45 seconds. Sergio Henao needs 55 seconds. Dombrowski in the green and black jersey of Cannondale there, he needs an awful lot more, but I think he's riding today thinking about the possibility of a podium position. Further down the road, Robert Hessinger's conquered this climb in the past. I wonder if he's got the experience to get his rhythm back and try and catch the youngsters who really are riding very, very fast ahead of him.
This is one of the steepest part of the climbs, right around 4K, so this is very steep to the finish line. They'll have that little reprieve, that little bit of the downhill at times, but for the most part, this is a nasty. Here's Julien. Oh, look at the drool that he has. He's completely committed, going as hard as he can.
We're looking at a rider who hasn't won a race this year, but he's nailed his colours to the mast on a number of the one-day classics. Runner-up in Flèche-Wallonne and Liège-Bastogne-Liège. He was very upset he didn't cross the line first in one of those two, but he saved something very, very special here, and he's brought his form to the United States.
Interestingly enough, Patrick Lefebvre, who is a man who runs the Ethics Quick-Step team, had an eye on this guy very, very early on in his career. In fact, he rode for the Ethics Quick-Step's development feeder squad, if you like. He was an exceptionally good cyclocross rider, and they brought him through the ranks before asking him to turn professional last year, and I think they really have a little bit of a crown jewel of French cycling here.
Well, Julien Alaphilippe started the day 45 seconds behind Peter Sagan. That's going to be the story right now. Right now we have about 15, so we can't really rely 100% on these time checks, but he needs to put 46 seconds into Peter. Peter's laboring a bit. He's a big guy compared to Julien Alaphilippe.
Bear in mind, we have to. I think he has to get a little bit more than that, because there are no time bonuses tomorrow. But
Nothing at all.
If Julian Alaphilippe was to take the overall lead by 4 or 5 seconds,
oh, yes,
what a battle tomorrow!
No doubt.
With a 10-second win bonus for Peter Sagan, it could be. It's not going to happen, believe me. But we're looking down at the moment of. He does need definitely 11 seconds over Sergio Henao, and it's still there as they continue to wind up the hill.
Henao, by the way, gentlemen, is coming back there from the helicopter.
Is that 10
altitude
seconds?
There. Well, it's a little bit further back, but let's not forget Alaphilippe is ahead of Henao to begin with, but Henao is now starting to find his rhythm again. I wonder if youthful enthusiasm at 22 years of age has forced him to attack a little bit early. Christian, you called it. You said he doesn't need to attack at this point. He didn't need to attack Sergio Henao because he was ahead of him in the overall standings. And look at how the slightly more experienced Colombian rider now is clawing his way back. We've still got 3 kilometers to go to the finish, and that 3 kilometers on these slopes, Christian, what are you talking, 12, 13 minutes? It's a long way.
The 1 kilometer is a bit faster because it has those little downhill slopes, but you know it's also going back up to altitude. So I think with every meter that going up, it's going to be more advantage to Sergio just because he is a Colombian. He has been training back in Colombia. So at the finish line, we're over 6,500 feet here. So every time he gets a little bit higher, and here we go. Here's Peter, another guy clawing his way back. They still have to dispatch him for even farther.
We're going to have to be very careful on the clock on the finishing line here at the summit of Mount Baldy.
Well, this is a great battle. Jens, you're watching these. First of all, what do you think of the defiance of Peter Sagan and the emergence, if you like, of Alaphilippe?
Waiting for the right moment. Really impressive race by him today, of all week long, basically. Henao is not beaten yet. He's still fighting to come back. And as Christian said, Peter Sagan is still hanging on and trying to limit his loss. So don't count him completely out for the overall or for a potential podium.
Well, we're watching pictures here, and it's about a 5-second split now between the Colombian and the French leader on the road. That Frenchman must finish 11 seconds in front to take the lead. So as you watch Alaphilippe split by the Colombian by 10 seconds this morning. Peter Sagan is out of it at the moment as we continue on the climb. The 10 seconds is split between the Frenchman and the Colombian, so he needs 11 seconds on the line to take the lead.
Sergio Henao needs 11 seconds if he wants to take the lead. He certainly has to finish ahead of Alaphilippe.
Peter is coming back to Ian Boswell. And he's doing an amazing job.
Sorry, boys. Yeah.
Don't worry. The difference between Alaphilippe and Sergio Henao is a simple 10 seconds, but that can be transferred on the road. At the moment, Alaphilippe is the best placed rider on the road. He's also ahead of Sergio Henao. Henao, though, seems to have found his rhythm in the latter part of this race, but they both need time over Peter Sagan. 45 seconds is what Alaphilippe needs, and 55 seconds is what Henao needs at the top of the climb. Sagan is hurting. That's for sure. He doesn't like this kind of climb, but he's got the inspiration of being the leader of this race at the start of the day and winning 2 stages so far, one in the sprint and one in the time trial.
And if he does a mount-up finish, I mean, it's like Eric Heiden in the speed skating.
The only thing against him here is the hill doesn't ease before the summit. We climb literally to the line. And that might cause a collapse here by Alaphilippe, of course. Coming into the last mile of the day, there's no respite. It is all the way up.
Yeah, last mile, it sounds a lot longer in kilometres, 1.8 kilometres. It's still going to be around about 6 to 7 minutes of effort. You can see the pain written all across his face there. It'd be nice if he took his sunglasses off and we could look into the whites of his eyes to try and read how much pain he's going through.
You know, I think that Sergio surged to come back to him, and I think that Julian Alaphilippe actually, he's accelerating now. So you saw Sergio almost come back to Alaphilippe, brought it back to maybe under 10 seconds, but now Alaphilippe is flying away from Sergio.
Yep, he certainly has. He's, I think, held. Look at this. You can almost see the difference in the speed. I know the gradient has disappeared. This is the last flat little piece before it finally kicks up towards the summit.
And now he's just thinking about the overall. He has 45 seconds to Peter Sagan right now. So he needs to beat him by more than 45 seconds. And like Paul said, he could come down to those bonus seconds tomorrow in the sprint.
Well, it certainly could, but it's all about how you ride this final 1.5 kilometers. There are some nasty switchbacks here as we look at brilliant style there. I mean, this is a guy who, as we said, 22 years of age. He won the points competition, by the way, in the Tour de l'Avenir a couple of years ago. So this kid, we don't, again, like Peter Sagan a few years ago, we don't know what he can do in the sport. He's 22 years of age. His body has still got an awful lot of development to do until he gets to 24, 25, 26 years of age and actually starts to bulk out a little bit.
I wonder if he'd be part of the selection for the Tour de France this year, but that would keep him one more year.
That's a good question. I mean, he's already raced a ton already this spring. So for him to keep on doing this, it might be, if you have something, a prodigy like you have with Julian Alaphilippe, maybe you put him to the side. Maybe you make sure that he could win the Tour de France in a couple of years.
Yeah, that's a big question, and I think he's with the right team for that kind of development because over the years, Ethics Quick-Step have developed some very good riders. Enayo looking over his shoulder there, looking for the gap between himself and everybody else. But this, to me, I think as Jensi said, revelation of the week, revelation of the season, because as Phil said, those performances we saw early on in the Amstel Gold Race and Liège-Bastogne-Liège really are phenomenal.
Flag of Flanders from Belgium. Ben Herman's the name on the back there, but it's Julian Alaphilippe here who is on the front, very much so. He went into a little bit of a bad patch, but he's come through it, I think, and he's now pushing on for the next destiny for the maillot jaune, the yellow jersey.
Yep, he started the day in 3rd place in the overall standings, but it's still going to be a big question on that clock on the finishing line. He needs to finish more than 45 seconds ahead of Peter Sagan, and Sagan, I think, will ride on the defensive. He'll limit his losses. He doesn't look good, but it's not his kind of terrain. He's doing whatever he can to keep that tempo riding. He's got a big body too to drag up a climb like this, and he just cannot wait to get to the top.
He has to have so much lactic acid going through his body, but you know, Pete has the capacity to really throw it down for that last 500 meters and maybe make some time back at that point.
Well, whatever happens, he'll win the sprint from his group.
He's still got a chance of being on the podium here, and that might be what he's thinking about at the moment, because you can see the Kenda 1 kilometer to the summit arch in front of Julian Alaphilippe. At the moment, he's safe, and he will take the race lead. There's no question of that, because Enayo has got to come back.
Well, he's only 23 years of age in June, this young man here, and I'm sure the French are screaming for an heir to the throne of Bernard Hinault. Funnily enough, we're in the Bernardino Mountains here, actually.
Very good, very clever. Yes, the San Bernardino, yes. Under 1 kilometer to go for Julian Alaphilippe now. Is this the kilometer that will carry him to victory tomorrow in the 10th edition of the Amgen Tour of California? Here comes the Colombian. He will go under the banner, but it's the wrong way round. He needs that sort of a gap, but he needs to be in front of the Frenchman.
Well, you know, it's scary. Oh, and Ian Boswell, job done, my man here. The American has found something very special here to come up and help his own teammate. This is amazing. He lost a little bit of time.
And look at this.
Pete's right here.
Wow. I mean, we're not too far off.
45 seconds. That means that Alaphilippe has got to get in 46 seconds ahead of Peter Sagan. Otherwise, he'll keep yellow, which is amazing. But he's not that far off. He's not 45 seconds off.
Going to be very, very close. This young man now, 22.5 years of age. Julian Alaphilippe from Ethics Quick-Step. He's suffering, but you know, everybody is suffering. Peter Sagan at the 1 kilometer to go point was 50 seconds back. He's losing it, but you know, he can
only
sprint.
Someone can tell Peter that. He'll find his wings.
Well, I just did psychologically.
Okay, well, I'm with you.
And let's not forget, it's pretty technical on the finishes. Those switchback, it's horrible pavement all the way to the finish line. Robert Gesink almost crashed. He was going so fast to the last corner last time he came up here. So these guys could make some time up. These guys are completely maxed out. You know, they're cross-eyed. They've been going hard for a long time now. So every second counts.
You know what you have to think about as a youngster here, he's going to be really dreaming about winning this, and he may well think, Christian, about the victory salute on the finish line. Now, a victory salute, if you take your hands off the bars in the last 40 or 50 meters, you could lose those 5 seconds. It's that critical.
Well, another kick again. We're up to the snow line now, Mount Baldy, but we can still see the rider because the clouds have blown away in the last hour. As he continues towards the summit, you can see the road suffer here from the winter snows. But we're seeing a Frenchman ride to victory up here. That's never happened before. As he now goes round the final switchbacks, and he's got a fresh pair of legs there.
Phil, let me just share a little story with you. The other day into Santa Clarita, all of the riders were freezing cold. Mark Cavendish was there with this young man on the podium. He was shivering. Mark Cavendish took the blanket that had been given to him by the organisation and put it around the shoulders of Julien Alaphilippe because he could see the youngster was that much colder than he was, and he was thinking forward to this time for his teammates.
Here's the moment of glory now, and he will take the yellow jersey tonight with a day to go on the flat roads around Pasadena tomorrow. He will be seen to have won this race on the top of Mount Baldy. Tomorrow he can have a few laps of honour down in Pasadena. Magnificent crowd bring him home, and Julien Alaphilippe is launching the French Renaissance at the highest level of cycling. Here he comes, the final bend before the finish. Nobody behind him.
But he needs to keep on going because Pete is hunting this guy down right now. He needs to go all the way through the line to make sure that he's going to get this yellow jersey today.
Well, he's crossed the line, the victory salute, the smile on his face. The clock has now started. I got 5 seconds. He needs 45 seconds. I wonder if Peter Sagan just knows how close he is in the overall standings. Here he is. He's at 300 meters to go, Peter Sagan. I have 20 seconds on the clock. He's got 25 seconds to get to the finish line.
He's
Peter, you've got to produce the finest sprint in those legs. You're going to have to kick around that corner. We are talking 2 or 3 seconds on the line as he comes up. This is Joe Dombrowski just ahead of Peter Sagan. That's another great ride out of Joe as well. But the battle is for yellow. Paul Sherwin showing me 40 seconds, and we're still waiting. There's Sagan. It is desperately close. It is about 10 meters from the line. Sagan has lost the lead. Unbelievable ride by Peter Sagan.
But did you tell me a few moments ago it wouldn't go down to the bonus sprints on the final day? It's going to be so
what a
close.
finish we have
Hessink
tomorrow.
Is coming up now.
Sagan can win this race now.
He can. I mean, there are time bonuses available tomorrow. What a day it's going to be.
And look, Alaphilippe, #1 for sure, but you've got to salute Peter Sagan.
Look at him
getting helped off the bike. Oh my God, I don't think Pete's ever gone this deep ever.
Oh, never. This is the most incredible thing, and it has to be in the 10th year of this race. Oh boy, Paul, 10 seconds the win bonus tomorrow, and this man's back on his ground.
The difference between them, Phil, is not going to be much more than 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Now, there are 3 seconds time bonus for the intermediate sprints, 10 for the win. This man has been Mr. Consistency in the Amgen Tour of California since it started. You know what? Jens, I think, was very, very lucky to get that little bit of information. Julien Alaphilippe, well, what a start. He will take the overall lead this evening, but what? I mean, you couldn't, as a race organizer, ask for a better finish.
Well, Jens, we've just witnessed something incredible, but what you said with Peter Sagan, it nearly happened.
I know, he is just 1, 2, or maybe maximum 3 seconds behind the yellow jersey. 2 bonus sprints tomorrow for 3 seconds, plus the final sprint. So Peter is definitely still in the game. And how great is that for the spectators, for the viewers? I mean, it's going to be thrilling and exciting until the very last second of this race. I'm just loving it.
So are we all, Jens. So are we all.